I am ready.
Hi, welcome to our Wednesday interview, The Expert. Today I have Sandra Coffey, and her last name is Coffee. Everybody loves coffee. I know it's strange. You don't drink coffee. I don't drink
I
coffee.
don't.
But a lot of other people like coffee. So it's a popular name.
Yeah, it's a
I
popular
love
drink, but yeah.
it.
I do like the odd cappuccino here and there, but straight coffee, no. I'm more a tea person.
Yeah, me too. So today we have a fascinating topic is how to talk with confidence about your business when you pitch for media publicity. And Sandra, she has a very amazing background. She is a former journalist and editor who has been spent 17 years in busy
Yeah.
newsrooms in newspapers, magazines, radios, and television. During her time as a journalist, she has been seen pitches and press releases come in that made her want to uh, scratch her head in
Yeah.
despair. So hopefully she's gonna tell us how not to do that, how not to stress
Yeah.
out publicity, media, the journalists or editors, so they can pick our stories. So she is now on a mission to help businesses pitch for uh, pitch. I hope I got it right.
Pitch,
For,
yeah, that's right.
I keep thinking of pitch for media publicity in a way that makes journalists smile.
Yeah.
Because if you can make a journalist smile, you are well on your way to getting featured. Sandra also writes media publicity copy that she claims, sings, and also dances, but most importantly has personality. It has a person behind the copy. She is now works as a media publicity coach and writer and spend a lot of time helping clients taking the stress out of going for media publicity and to talk about their business with confidence. So welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Sue, for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So excited to have you. I know the power of publicity, not firsthand, but I do have a story I want to share because it kind of tells us the power of leveraging the media, even though it's not a newsroom or TV that I experience, it's through social media. There's a large Facebook group. I went and posted my personal story, my personal transformation. And that
Yeah.
story went viral. And
Yeah.
don't forget, it's a niche, very niche down group. And people there were female entrepreneurs. So when I shared my story, it went viral. It got thousands of likes and 1,600 comments. And
Wow.
all of a
Amazing.
sudden, I have this floodgate of people coming to me, and many wants my coaching right off the gate. So I got at least 10 free consultations out of that one post.
Wow.
Uh,
Fantastic.
yeah, and of course, there's another story of whether or not they follow through. So some of them didn't show up on the consultation, but that's another story.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
point being, when you leverage the media, either the social media or publicity, newspapers, online magazines, it can put your business, put your marketing on steroids. And I
Sure.
was so surprised by that experience. I so can you tell us about the benefits of leveraging the media, leveraging publicity? What does it do for us as a business owner? Does it do to
Yeah.
our business?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're going to pitch to an outlet that already has an audience. Now, I always say to clients that they need to do their homework before they pitch to any outlet. but we can talk about that later. But benefits to the business, well, they're huge really. Visibility is one. And if you do your homework and you pitch to the journalists and the outlets that are most suited to what you do, then, I mean, the visibility is huge. The clients that are already engaged and are already, the audience that you've pitched to, that these journalists write for, are already engaged in what this journalist does. So you're leveraging the talents and skills of that person. And they're going to write your story in a way that people want to read it. It's okay for, you know, a lot of people, they are very good at writing content, but writing a media-friendly piece of content is quite different. And you'll be leveraging the talents and knowledge of that person to write your story in a way that attracts audiences. I mean, if you look at stories about businesses that are written by journalists, a lot of them focus in on one element of their story. It could be a very happy element, it could be a personal transformation like what you were talking about. But a lot of the time it's one element of their story that they feel relates to the audience that they are writing for. So they already know the audience, and that's another thing that you're going to benefit from. They know who's going to read this. So when you pitch your story to them, they go, this is the angle that we need to take, because this is the angle that our audience are going to love. And you're kind of leveraging their audience, their skills, their knowledge, their way of writing the story. That's going to get you a huge amount of visibility, clients. And I always say to people that get their first taste of publicity, while it is absolutely amazing and exciting, they need to be ready for the next one. It's not just, you're not just a one hit wonder. Your first single is amazing and then you disappear. You need to have a plan. So if you're going to build a relationship with this particular journalist, then obviously you're not going to pitch them the next day or the next week, but you're going to nurture that relationship. So the next time you have a story that you think might be similar to what they wrote about before, or along a similar angle or line, then you're going to have a relationship there already, and you're going to be a step ahead of the person that's sending in a cold pitch and sending a cold pitch to hundreds of journalists, which a lot of people do, and in my opinion is absolutely a waste of time. But the main benefit is their skills, talent, and their audience and their way of writing the story. That's what you're getting.
So I think a lot of business owners don't understand the power of the media and the power of publicity. And what it does for your business is like you are truncating time. Instead of building your own following from scratch, which takes years and years, you jump on a established platform. They already built that trust, and you only need to build that trust with the publicity, you know, the whoever determines whether your story goes on live or not.
Yeah.
So that's a huge leverage. And I know a multimillionaire coach, and when he first started out, he had trouble finding clients, just like the rest of us, right?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody start from the same place. You know, you start from a nobody knows you, nobody wants your coaching, they don't know what they're getting, to the point of eventually, like, we all want to get to that place where your audience can retell your story. It was so powerful. Actually, I was watching a training, they mentioned Tony Robbins. They're talking about Tony Robbins' story, like people from the audience, they can retell Tony Robbins' story to great detail. And it's to that, you know, to that point, it's because of the publicity he generated, right? In the beginning, he did infomercials on the TV. Everybody saw him. Thus, he got the initial attraction. I think as a business owner, we need to be smart marketers. You know, business, it's not about our coaching skills, not only about our coaching skills and how powerful you can transform people's lives. And part of it is we need to get out there and get ourselves known so we can go and transform those lives, right? So
Yeah, and
the media
the
is
quickest way
such
to do that is by building relationships with journalists, for sure.
yeah, and that's a very strong connection. And even beginner coaches should consider that. Would you say that, Sandra?
Oh, definitely, because starting out is just so unbelievably difficult. And even like getting some publicity in your local outlet. I'm a big believer, like people come to me and they think, okay, I want to be on BBC, I want to be on CNN, I want to be on, and I'm like, okay, well, have you got like past clippings? Have you got past interviews? Have you got a bank of stuff that shows that you can do this, that you can deliver on set, that you can be a comfortable guest? So many people realize when they go on a TV set that this is absolutely insane. I cannot do this and I'm not ready. And that's because they weren't ready. They weren't prepped. They had no idea what was going to happen. And it's absolutely a really, really horrible place to be when you are on a TV set and you realize you're not ready. You cannot run away. They need you and they have got their eyes on you and you've got to perform. But what I always say to people is to start small and start realistic. And the powerful relationship that you have with a local journalist, that's where you're going to learn the ropes. That's where you're going to realize, how your story develops, how they write your story. And it's that little bit easier get publicity locally and regionally because, first of all, you're based in the area, so you serve clients in the area. Now, a lot of people serve clients that live thousands of miles away, but you're based in that area, so you're of interest to them and to the people that live around the area, because local journalism is very much based on community and what happens in the community. So I always say to people, start realistic and start small and build a relationship with a journalist in a local TV station, radio station, or a newspaper magazine, whichever you decide to pick first after having done some research, and build that relationship and learn the ropes from them. Because people can tell you, oh, getting media publicity, you just send in your press release and make sure you've got some kind of element of a story in there. That doesn't really work. I mean, it can work for some people but most of the time, a journalist, even a local journalist, you may think is not as busy as a national journalist, but they are just as busy, maybe even busier, because they've got more on their plate now with social media and everything. So I think if you start with realistic expectations, and I say media begets media. If you get featured in your local outlet, local TV, radio, whatever it is, like 3 or 4 times, that is so powerful. When you go to pitch to the next level, you have no idea how powerful that is. Some people think, oh, I've been featured in my local outlet, big deal. That is so much more powerful than someone who bypasses the local outlets and goes straight to the next level because they think that they can. You've got clippings. Another journalist has written about you. Another journalist has interviewed you. And all journalists know each other, regardless. I mean, certainly in Ireland, where I've worked, and in England, we all know each other. And you know the new kids on the block, you know the ones that have been around a long time. And oftentimes the local journalism informs national journalism. So if your story has gathered a little bit of momentum in a local outlet, a national journalist is going to find out about it. And sometimes that local journalist will pitch your story to a national newspaper, because they will see and they will know this story deserves to be seen by more people. This person's story is amazing, and I'm going to let a journalist know in the Daily Mail, look, I did this story. Do you think it's of any interest to you? Do you want me to rewrite it, or do you want to take it? And that's how it works. Everyone knows each other. So if you build your skills and build your confidence locally, it's absolutely unbelievable what can happen from there. I know some people don't, they don't like to hear that because they want to go to the BBC straight away, or they want to go to the bigger outlets. But I have worked with clients before who have been very lucky to get featured on, there's a national television and radio station here called RTE, but they get there and then they realize, okay, look, I kind of didn't do very well because I was really, really nervous. But you can make those mistakes in your local outlet. You can make loads of mistakes. Now, people will still hear it and people will talk to you about it and will make funny comments and all that. But it's a smaller audience. So when you go to the bigger outlet, you've got a way bigger audience. So if you make like very minor mistakes or mistakes you shouldn't really make if you've had a bit of practice, and if you make them on a national outlet, then they're kind of magnified in a way.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest tip is to just, media publicity is a journey. It's not like something that's going to happen overnight. And you need to just, take the steps and take the journey to get there. And all of your things come together. And once you send to another journalist, I'm more interested in those that have been featured by other journalists. That's simple as that. And if I know the journalist that's written the story, I'm like, oh God, that's a really interesting story. I'm going to talk to Michael and I'm going to ask him, did she have any other photos? The person that's the center of the piece, what was she like to interview? Oh, she was great. Well, she was a bit nervous, but maybe she's a bit better now because I spoke to her. So it all builds together. That's my firm belief, and that's what I've seen happen from being on the other side of the desk, being in the newsrooms, and now being on this side.
So take the baby steps, right? Start from small, and it builds up, and they all communicate with each other. So you get bigger and bigger.
Then you're not going to be. There are always ones that are, there are some journalists who will always remember those that let them down. Like, I mean, we're talking about like building confidence. And I always used to have a list of people that I knew were really, really good for interviews on certain topics like health, fitness, beauty. And I had my list of contacts, like they call it the black book, but I updated these contacts like maybe twice, maybe 3 times a year, but at least always once a year. And I'll always remember, okay, look, Patricia wasn't great last time, or maybe we need someone new in that area. And so that's a way that you can get to be an authority in the field. If you're pitching often and if you're seen to be doing a lot of work in a certain area, I will go and find you and go, okay, maybe this is the next expert I need on my list of people that I always go to when a major story breaks. Let's say like there was a very interesting story in the Daily Mail a few weeks back where they were saying they wanted like experts to talk to them about, okay, well, what happens if I'm getting married during COVID? What happens now? What happens to my savings? What happens to my mortgage if I can't pay it? So they had a list of experts. And that list of experts was people that journalist took from their little black book and said, look, okay, Patricia, she's excellent. We're going to get her. We're going to get John. We're going to get Michael and whoever else. But you're not going to get on that list straight away, but it's certainly one that is achievable for anybody once they build.
Think about the exposure, right?
Yeah.
That's putting in an unfair advantage. Actually, I was recently looking up a famous influencer in the online entrepreneurship. And when I look at his name, it's all these big journals like Forbes, it's all these big journals telling his story, how he went from rags to riches. And that story is so inspirational. It's instant credibility. Like the moment I read this, like you feel like you want to work with this guy. He's so famous. He knows what he's doing. He works the path. These big outlets are featuring him. So, of course, it takes time that he built up this portfolio. And also there's another coach, multi-million coach, I came across recently and I'm studying him, is that when he's starting out, he actually struggled for years and years. He couldn't, he had difficulty of getting clients. So, but one time the Forbes contacted him actually and asking him to write an article for Forbes. Fantastic. So he wrote this article, his website was not even ready. So he wrote that article, it went to published by Forbes and picked up by CNN, all these news outlets. Mm-hmm. it goes viral. Everybody wants to feature, the interesting
Yeah.
stories, inspirational
Because,
stories.
media certainly builds media. That's
Yeah. So overnight,
yeah.
he got more than 3,000 subscribers.
Wow, gosh, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, people just contacting him said they want his service
Yeah,
out of the blue. What does that do to your business? What if suddenly
yeah,
people coming from nowhere that you don't know
yeah,
where they're coming from, but suddenly they all come to me and want your coaching? And
yeah.
that's the type of leverage media can produce.
And
You,
if you're willing to share like the very innermost details of your personal story, some people say to me, "I'm willing to share my personal story, Sandra." Okay, here it goes. And I ask them more difficult questions. They're, "Oh, well, I might piss off someone if I say that, or I can't really go there because my granny might get annoyed." But some people are like, "No, I'm going to share warts and all," and that's what gets people interested. But you've got to be very careful about what you want to say as well, because it's going to be out there forever. But definitely personal stories work really well, but I always urge caution, because some people don't realize that once you tell a journalist something, you can ask for them not to use it. But if the story is very juicy, then you're in a bit of a conundrum. But certainly sharing a personal story is something that I always say, look, be careful. It's great to share it, but this is something, it's going to have to come from, I suppose, your own heart, really, and your own experience.
Yeah.
But you don't want to damage too many people by sharing, it depends. I hear stories and go, okay, are you really, really sure you want to share all of this stuff? And mostly, okay, I say, okay, well, look, far be it from me to say not to do it. But if you're going to hire me as your coach, then I'm going to say, look, this is what could happen if you send this in. You send in a press release to a journalist, and a lot of people think that the journalist is going to use it as is. That's not going to happen. Like, I don't know, like it does happen if someone writes it really well and they just think, well, there's no editing to do here. But mostly it's changed, and it's changed utterly. And I have worked with people in the past that I say, oh, did you see your story? It's the journalist wrote your story, and they're looking through and they're like, but I can't see it anywhere, Sandra. Where is it? I'm like, no, it's there. It's there, like on page 10. And they're like, they don't recognize it because it's nothing like what they sent in. The journalists see the different angle. They see the angle. It's not the angle that you've sent in. What's news to the person sending in the story is generally not news to the person that's going to be reading it on the other side. And the journalist always has the reader in mind. It doesn't have your business in mind. Right. It has the reader. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that whatever you're going to put in your press release or your pitch, you've got to be happy with everything that's in there, because the very last line, the line that you think, oh, well, I'll just put it in there, they're probably not even going to see it, that might be the line that could be in the headline. So you really need to be very happy with everything that's there, and that the quotes that you want to give, that you're happy with them, or the person giving them has given the go-ahead. Yeah, I think I'm happy to say that, especially if it's something controversial. Just make sure you're happy with it, because the journalist is going to take the information and it's going to turn it into a story for a newspaper, not necessarily a story that's going to have your business, front and center like you want it to be. You will be featured, but you won't be, it's more about what helps the reader, not necessarily what helps you as a business. But the two are intertwined, because if you're helping readers, then readers are going to be interested in how you help them, and they're going to be interested that way. So it's just important to bear that in mind, I guess, is my advice to people.
I think a lot of our followers will be interested in whether or not they can be featured by media, even as a new coach. So what would you say to that?
Well, first, I think that when you're starting off, you need to get to know the outlets in your area. So I always say to people, before you pitch to anybody. Like, do you listen to any radio shows at the moment? What TV programs do you watch? And what newspapers do you read? And do you like any particular magazines? And is there anything in that magazine that you like, that sticks out to you? And you need to go away and spend, I always like to get people to do 2 to 3 weeks of just very it's easy research. I mean, you go and you can look online, or I always encourage people to buy the physical copy because you can see better how things are laid out and who does what. But online is just as good. And you need to do your homework as to where you fit in. It's not a case of, okay, I'm a coach now and I'm going to be of interest to all the outlets. You know, I'm just going to get all their emails and I'm just going to blast out a massive email. That just doesn't work. You need to get on social media. Twitter is absolutely fantastic if you're looking for information on journalists. That's where they are. That's where they are engaging with other journalists and engaging with stories as they happen. And most journalists, if they're watching any like reality shows, let's say journalists that do America's Got Talent, they're going to be on Twitter at the same time and posting up updates. So that's where they're on if you're looking for their details. So you need to get to know what they do, you know, what's news to them, and then you need to try and fit in there. Like if you are a new coach, you will need to figure out, okay, well, what's my kind of newsiest angle for this newspaper? Have they featured coaches before? Are they looking for some advice in relation to, like, if it's a parenting coach, there's like a parenting during COVID, for example. That's an article newspapers are crying out for. What do I do with my kids now that they're not in school? Okay, they're not in school now anyway, but earlier on in the year, they're not in school. There's not going to be any summer camps. Oh my God, help. So if you're a parenting coach, that's certainly an area that's massive. It still is massive because we're not sure, certainly here, when schools are going to reopen in September. And it's how you fit in. It's not a case of, okay, I am news because I'm a new coach. That's not really of much news to a journalist. If you're saying, oh, I have a program that helps parents deal with kids because they have to spend like X amount of hours indoors because of COVID. I'm like, oh great, this is exactly what we need. The parents reading our outlet are going to absolutely love this. And then they will take you through all the details that they need for the story, how you help and get into the nitty gritty. Also, as a new coach, if a journalist is going to interview you, you kind of need to be ready for like nitty gritty questions, you know, like what exactly do you do? Okay, I help parents, blah, 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 blah. But they're going to go, okay, yeah, that's fine, but exactly what do you do? And they will try to get more details and more kind of, I suppose, nail down exactly what you do, because a journalist writing a story is going to have a sub-editor look at it and the editor look at it, and it's going to come back onto their desk, already crazy busy desk, going, okay, Sandra, this story is great, but there's not a lot of detail here about what this person does. Did you ask them questions? Well, I did, but they didn't have any answers. Well, okay, we'll have to put it on hold until they can give us a couple of more details about what they do. So having the details ready is very important, because vagueness is certainly something journalists absolutely hate, detest, and just think, if you're going to be vague, then, you know, it's not going to fill the gap that we have here for your story, vagueness, because the reader will smell vagueness. Readers that certainly in outlets I've worked for, you would be amazed at readers and listeners what they pick up on, and the comments you get in about interviews that people have done that have been on. They're like, incredibly vague. I didn't get anything useful from that interview. And you're like, well, you know, maybe, you know, we will have them on again, you know, maybe in a couple of months' time when they have a new program or they have a new, they have something new to say. And like, really? Gosh, they're not worth having them back on. So you need to have your details, I suppose, front and center. And if you, as I was saying earlier, try and just pick 5 journalists to pitch to start with. Don't go for 20 or 50, as someone came to me once, was like, oh, I have 50 journalists here that I'm going to pitch to. And I'm like, well, are they interested in what you do? Like, there's no point pitching someone. Actually, that's one of the worst things. One of my pet peeves as a journalist, someone would send me in something in an area that I don't cover at all. And I said, okay, look at, now a lot of journalists won't reply, so they just hit delete and go right next email. That person hadn't a clue that they were sending it to me, and I don't cover fitness or whatever it is. But then I might send back an email if it's on a quiet day of the week, and I go, or maybe I'll just tell them I don't cover this area, so they don't send me an email again thinking, oh, well, she's very rude, she never got back to me. Actually, I don't cover this. So I might send back an email to the person and go, I don't cover this area at all. And then they send me back an email asking me, well, who does? And I'm like, that's your job to find the information. It's not my job. Now, sometimes I will know who, okay, you need to talk to John over in this outlet. He does this. But it's up to you to do the research. It's not up to, there is some hand-holding when you're starting off. And if you tell a journalist, look, I'm new to media publicity, I might make a few mistakes along the way. That's fine to say. If someone says that to me, I'm ready to go, okay, look, I might be able to help you. I might not be, if you send me your pitch, your press release on a really quiet day, I actually might be able to help you in a pretty major way with it. But that so rarely happens now. I mean, that maybe used to happen pre-social media, but now it's most likely not going to happen. But you might just be lucky. But that's, as I'm saying, that it's quite unique to get that kind of help. But yeah, I'm kind of going off.
It sounds like there's a lot of
talk about it so much, I can't help myself.
So there's a lot of the do's and don'ts about media publicity. So can you tell people how they can find you and look into your program so they can get more into this?
Facebook is certainly where I chat to a lot of clients now via Messenger on there, so you can get me on Facebook, no problem, that's not a problem. I also have a Facebook group called Media Publicity, Develop and Grow Your Media Presence, so you can get me there. My website, sandracoffey.com, is currently under construction, but I have been promised it's going to be live tomorrow. So, but certainly you can get me on Facebook. I'm on there a lot. I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can get me there, or just comment on this post and we can chat there either. So
yeah, post the links to your website and your group, so people can find you. Great. And this is such a info-packed session. I really appreciate finally having you on the show. I think this is kind of like a blank area for a lot of new coaches out there, right? We don't know. This is a powerful leverage we can use. We always think, oh, the people who are famous are using this. But it's because they're using it, that's why they become so well known, right? And it's a resource everybody can use. I believe we all have very inspirational stories to share, our emotions and the journey we go through, and why not share that with the media to generate more publicity, more exposure to you and your business, generate leads, and perhaps a lot of sales flooding in without any follow-up or something. And that's what it does to you and your business when you leverage the media and publicity. So thank you so much.
Yes, I always say as well, just a quick point, so many people stop when they don't get featured. They pitch maybe 2 or 3 times, and then they decide, okay, maybe this isn't for me, it's too time consuming, it's too stressful, I don't really know what I'm doing. I say, do not give up, because your story might not be news to a journalist now, but if you try and work on your pitch or work on your content, or maybe decide on a different angle and take a different angle and send it again, then you have a better chance of success, because you know what didn't work. You didn't get featured with that story. Nobody picked that up. Just don't give up, because so many people come to me like, I gave up after, like, I sent in 5 emails and no one got back to me. And I'm like, no. You've got to just take a step back. Let's find the stories that are going to be, eye-catching or that have something to say, and let's go again. That's so, definitely do not give up. Please don't give up.
If you need any help, contact Sandra, and
Oh, thank
she
you.
will help you with her over 17 years of experience and
Yeah.
to get you featured.
And the gray hairs to prove it.
You look good. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here today,
Thank you.
Sandra.
Thank you so much, Sue. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Okay,
Bye.